Today I am watching the Buffy episodes and I am sunbathing as well. I haven't been able to watch many of the episodes so far because I like to sunbathe, and I've changed the TV so that I can see it from here. But yeah, up until a few hours ago, um, all the cords for the TV were all wrapped around each other, and I couldn't see how I could like pull the TV away from the corner that it is, because it only faced that side of the room and it didn't face this side of the room. But I unplugged it and actually bothered to unweave the cable so that I could stretch it. The cable's only about that far, but I managed to get it so that you can see it in this section. But yeah, I could only do that by unweaving it, and I've bothered to do that. It's taken me years to do that. I wanted to do that for years, but I don't know. I couldn't watch TV in this section before because of that. But yes, it is very bright though. But I've got some things that help with it because it's too hot otherwise. But I just want to say that it's reminding me a lot of my childhood. I think for people to remember, have an accurate account of their childhood, I feel like watching something like a film that you haven't seen in a long time kind of helps you to remember, because you remember how you felt when you last watched this. And I've not watched these Buffy episodes since then. I don't think. Like, I watched them a lot of times up until the age of about 18, 19, 20, and then I stopped because I'd seen them way too many times. And yeah, now that it's been like a long time since I've seen them, my memory is quite faded on it, so I'm just like regretting, remembering things. And yeah, I remember how I felt in boarding school, which was just that I felt like the whole world was just nothing to do with me. No one seemed similar to me. No one seemed anything like me. Everyone I felt was kind of boring. I did like music and the boy bands and R&B music, but I didn't really have that many artists that I actually knew who they were. Like, all the boy bands seemed to just blend into one because it was all listening on a headphone. I had a CD player in the first few years, which I kind of printed off CDs, and then I bought an MP3 player. I think that would have been about 2002 or something, I don't know. But yeah, when I'm coming to think about my memories, I think it is kind of strange, because I felt like I first watched Buffy when I was 13, but I seem to remember I had an audition for this other boarding school, and we spent the night in the school just as like a trial, I guess. And we had tests and stuff. I failed the English, I passed the maths, but failed the English, and I didn't do very well on something else. I can't remember what the third one was, so I don't think I actually made it in, but the school itself was very, very expensive, so I don't think my parents could have really afforded that school. I think they were being stupid when thinking about it. But yeah, I remember that was one where I saw a ghost that looked like a demon, and I thought it was something of Buffy, and I convinced myself that the only reason why I saw it was perhaps because of Buffy. But yeah, technically, now that I'm thinking about it, I thought I was 30. I would have been 13 when I auditioned for that school, but I would have only just turned 13. So I'm like, when did I first watch Buffy? I don't know. I know it was on that third series, but if it first was released when I was 10, then they would be on the third series when I was 13. And so, yeah, but I find it weird with memories, because I've been seeing my uncle a lot recently, and I've been trying to get him to I was talking about him and how he ended up with a mental condition and like what happened. You know, I have a theory that he perhaps was just stressing out over things, stressing out over work, stressing out because he went to uni. He got quite a lot of O levels, like 11 O levels, which my mum got 3 or 4 and he got 11. So that kind of shows that he was a lot more intelligent than my mum back then, and he could fill out forms and do all the things that you would expect a human to do. And then when he went to uni, he had some sort of mental breakdown, and I'm trying to get him to regress, like or remember what happened back then, and I don't feel like he's remembering it correctly. I feel like sometimes if you analyze something over and over and over again, you stop remembering the actual truth about what happened, and you start just remembering the things you said over the years about what you think has happened. You know, he's 60 now, so this would have, if back when he was 21, this would have been 40 years ago, so it's a very long time ago, and I think I can't trust anything that he says in regards to it. You know, he said that the HALOPERIDOL hydrolone once gave him obtense obsessions, and clapramethine just kept him needing caps. I don't even know what it means by that. And then the lithium, he thinks he needs it, but at the same time, I feel like if you're taking like 17 to 20 drugs each day, how are you going to know what's what? How are you going to know what's working and what's not? And therefore, I don't feel like I can get an accurate, account. If you were to try and study him and analyze like what he thinks went wrong, I mean, this guy does not believe that I'm God. He's never believed that I'm God or Christ. He has no ability to recognize truth in it, and therefore, I'm just thinking, if he has no ability to recognize that I'm God or Christ, then obviously he can't recognize the truth. And if he can't recognize the truth, can I believe anything that he says? Often he tells stories and he repeats it a couple of times, but the story over the years changes each time he says it. And I feel like he's talking about something different, and then I kind of realize that I think he's talking about the same thing and he's changed the story. So because of that, I can't believe anything that he really says in regards to that. But I feel like I have a good, strong memory of what my childhood was like, just because I have not seen the Buffy episodes for a very long time. I think I saw the Angel one. I was never really a huge fan of Angel. I loved the Pioneer. That was like one of my, I think when the Pioneer episode came out, I was like, right, I love the Angel shows too. And Fred and Cordelia, but yeah, I didn't like the son. I thought the son was just annoying, and I was happy for Angel when he had a son, and then to find that he just loses him, and then he comes back as this sort of annoying, ungrateful person that just wants to kill his dad. I lost interest in the show at that point, and I stopped like wanting to watch. I mean, I watched it, but it was kind of like I'm not really keen on this, but I'll watch it. And then there was a really weird storyline with Cordelia, and then they either killed her off or they sort of half killed her off, and then when she left the show, I was just like, I don't want to watch anything more. So I know I didn't watch that last episode, that last season I didn't watch until 2013. I know that. But yeah, I think it's strange to think about how there's so many shows in the world, and yet I don't know majority of them, and yet the one show that I did like, it's strange to think how it had a low budget and how there seemed to be loads of arguments or disputes or just things. I don't know, it feels strange, because how the show ended up being feels like how it was always meant to be. So to think that there was always a big weird debate over what's what, and Josh wanting to get rid of Spike and stuff, I liked the Spike character from day one, so I had no idea that any of that happened or anything, and I still don't know what's going on with Xander. I want to believe that it's fake, but it seems too realistic to be fake, so I'm confused. But yeah, it's reminding me of how I felt. Like I believed lots of crazy things. I wasn't sleeping, and when I did sleep, I would have dreams about the show often, or other things as well, but mostly Buffy type show. Never remember who I was in the show. Like I would never remember that I was in a boarding school. And then for about 10 years after I left the boarding school, I used to keep dreaming that I was back in a boarding school, and just feeling trapped. But yeah, back then I know that I felt like I was kind of on a planet full of people that weren't connected with me, that just this it's like being in a prison where you think you're something different to everyone else around you, but there's a small group of people who know about you, and that, or I don't know, a small group of people that are like you, and the Buffy show, I guess, was that small group of people that I always felt a strong connection with, because I liked the show. But yeah, when it comes to anything else, I was just like, my mum liked EastEnders. I'm not even sure if I did back then. But yeah, it just feels strange to think that there was so many shows that were being promoted, and yet this one seemed to disappear. And there's a lot of people still hating witchcraft like 20 years ago, and it's just like, but didn't you see Buffy? Like, didn't you like witchcraft because of that show and stuff? And I don't know. There's not many people that I would call my people, but the Buffy show group is what I would call my people. But yeah, I don't. What else to say? I'm waiting for people to come and talk to me, but when people do come and talk to me, I'm just going to be so angry that you've chosen to ignore me for so long. It's amazing to think that this world has spent thousands of years believing that they know God when really everything that they teach each other about God is just wrong and not true and not correct, and God comes here feeling like she's the only person in the world who actually understands her, and then to have me live that way for a very, very long time, only to start waking up and realizing that there are other people, but none of them seem to talk to me or anything, and I don't know. I think what I need is just a nice house that I can live in, and I don't really want to meet or talk to people because I'm so angry that they've chosen to ignore me for this long. And I don't consider anyone to really be someone that I really like. I don't know who did the show or anything, but I know that yeah. It's weird to think that the world has been arguing over God for such a long time, and yet almost everyone is wrong about God. They all worship a male God that doesn't exist, one that they just invented with wrong ideologies, things that I don't agree with or believe in or anything, and they're all just fighting over just lies, and I don't think anyone cares, because if they did care, why can't I just go on Facebook, tell people I'm God, and then have them look up the information and be like, oh yeah, I believe you, and the people that are, like, some people are watching my videos and yet they still say, oh well, I don't really believe on this and that, I think you're wrong about this, but I'm God, like surely something's right. I think people think with their dicks here, and they're just mindless. There's loads and loads of mindless people, clueless as to what's right and what's wrong, clueless about what's good and what's bad, and yeah, I just don't want to be. I don't want to be ignored. And it's been for 12 years, and you haven't let me live, and it's horrible to think that there's so many people getting like good opportunities, and yet all they want to complain about is they're not making enough money and stuff. I know there's a lot of hard work involved in these shows, so it's not all fun, but yeah, the shows now that are shit. I've watched the Death of the Unicorn. Like, what the hell was that about? Why, if you think you just killed a unicorn, there's purple blood coming out of a white horse, a white horse with something on his head, and why would your first instinct be coming out of the car with some sort of bat to hit the dinosaur with? And then if you saw your daughter sort of touching his head because the unicorn's clearly injured, why the hell would you get a bat and start batting the head of the head? That just angered me. It's like, why would you do that to a mythical creature? Like, surely you'd have some respect for the animal, and then to think that it's dead, and then the first thing you do is it's trying to get out of the car and you shoot it in the head. And all those people in that film deserve to die, and yet for some reason I have the people who watch it would have to be on the side of the humans, even though they've just done something terrible to a rare creature. I didn't like that film at all. They all deserve to die, and then The Working Man was the one that there's just lots and lots of violence. Humans are horrible. Who are you getting to make these films? Are you other people who know about me? Because I like the Jawbreaker film, and there's certain films, and they don't seem to be doing that much. And maybe I'm wondering if they've all just like stopped making films because they're just like, yeah, this is silly. Why am I making all these films for a bunch of people that are just horrible? And then the people that are the Warner Brothers or whatever companies are making these films, they're just saying, okay, we'll find filmmakers who don't know about me, and the filmmakers that don't know about me are all sick or something like that. I don't know who knows about me and who doesn't, and it's really bothering me. It's always going to bother me how I don't know who knows about me and who doesn't. And then to think that I might have another year or 2 or 3. I've got a nice sunbathing spot, and that's all that matters to me. But yeah, other than that, I just want to leave. And I feel like watching these Buffy episodes are just reminding me of how I felt 20 years ago, 30 years ago, which was just like, no one really understands me, no one really connects to me, and it's just, the whole world was just a bunch of really boring people who I didn't want anything to do with. And to think that these boring people have spent thousands of years arguing and debating over. The thing is, not many people have. It's only because I've been looking at religion. I've only been looking at religious videos ever since 2013, And I guess because I'm looking at religious videos, I'm going to get loads of religious debates. But yeah, I don't believe any of these people who talk about religion care about God. They just care about the idea that God is going to come and help them at some point, and if they serve the right God, they'll get the right kind of rewards from this God that they serve. And if I try to tell people in reality that I was God, they would just think, well, you're obviously not going to reward me for anything, so I'm not going to believe in you, or I'm not going to care. You don't give me hope, you don't give me anything that I need, therefore I'm not going to care. And then the idea of truth and seeking truth and that being like enough, it's just so not enough for anyone here. I think the only thing that people want is a better life. But yeah, this whole world, there's so many people that are just not on my side in any way, and I just want the test to find out who's on my side and who's not.